The story begins in 1962, where we see a massive, luxurious Italian cruise ship named Antonia Graza sailing peacefully in the middle of the ocean. The ship is filled with cheerful passengers, music, and laughter. Inside the Grand Lounge, a glamorous party is underway. A beautiful singer named Francesca is performing on stage, captivating everyone with her voice. The guests are dancing, drinking, and enjoying themselves immensely. But amidst the crowd, a young girl sits quietly by herself. Noticing her loneliness, the ship's captain approaches and gently invites her to dance. Just then, an unknown figure in another part of the ship pulls down a lever. In an instant, the ship's metallic cables snap tight and whip through the lounge, slicing across the entire room. Within a heartbeat, everyone on the dance floor is cut clean in half. Because the young girl is shorter, the cable passes right above her head, leaving her unharmed. She looks around in shock at the horrific scene and lets out a piercing scream of terror. The story then jumps 40 years later. We meet a seasoned salvage crew led by Captain Murphy, along with Murin, Greer, Dodge, Mundar, and Santos. Their job is to recover abandoned or wrecked ships drifting at sea. We find them relaxing at a bar, laughing and drinking after their last mission. That's when a weather service pilot named Jack Ferriman approaches them. He introduces himself to Captain Murphy and says, "A while ago, I spotted a large vessel adrift in the middle of the ocean. I tried hailing it, but there was no response." Jack explains that the ship was far off the regular shipping lanes, drifting in international waters. Whoever brings her in, he says, gets to claim her as their own. The crew quickly agrees to the deal, offering Jack 10% of the profit. He accepts, and soon, they set off into the open sea aboard their tugboat, the Arctic Warrior. After several days at sea, their radar suddenly picks up something huge. But strangely, the signal keeps appearing and disappearing, as if the ship itself were fading in and out of existence. They scan the horizon, no other vessels in sight. Puzzled, they keep moving forward. Suddenly, through the fog, enormous shadow looms ahead. They rush to stop the boat, but it's too late. The Arctic Warrior crashes into the side of a colossal ship. When the dust settles, Captain Murphy shines his light up at the rusted hull and freezes. The name on the side reads, Antonia Graza. The same luxury liner that vanished without a trace 40 years ago, with no distress call, no survivors. Except for Jack and Greer, the rest of the crew boards the mysterious vessel. The moment they step inside, the air feels heavy and unnatural. Strange noises echo through the empty corridors. They pass by an old clock, its pendulum still swinging, as if time itself never stopped. But when Mundar reaches out to touch it, the pendulum suddenly halts, and a loud metallic clang rings through the ship, startling everyone. As they move deeper, the floor beneath Mundar suddenly gives way. He plunges down, but Murin grabs his arm just in time. While struggling to pull him up, Murin glances down the hallway and sees a little girl standing there, silently watching them. Before she can say a word, the girl vanishes into thin air. They finally manage to pull Mundar to safety. Continuing their search, the crew finds a digital wristwatch lying on the floor. They're stunned. Digital watches didn't even exist 40 years ago. Captain Murphy frowns. "Someone's been here before us," he says. "That watch must belong to them." They decide to tow the ship back to port and return to the Arctic Warrior for the night. But Murin can't shake what she saw. The young girl's face haunts her mind. Jack notices her unease and asks what's wrong. She quietly tells him, "I saw a little girl on that ship." Jack chuckles lightly, trying to comfort her. "You've been at sea too long, Murin. Your eyes are playing tricks on you." The next morning, the crew inspects the lower decks and makes a shocking discovery. The hull is riddled with holes, letting water pour in. The ship needs major repairs before it can move again, so the crew decides to fix it. Murphy estimates it'll take 3 full days to complete the work. Everyone gets busy with their assigned tasks. While exploring, Murin reaches the ship's swimming pool area. There, she notices dozens of bullet casings scattered across the ground, and bullet holes riddling the walls. Confused and alarmed, she turns to leave. But just as she steps toward the exit, she sees the same little girl standing at the far end of the pool. Startled, Murin loses her balance, slips, and falls hard, hitting her head on the edge of the pool. Blood begins to trickle from her wound and drip into the water. At that moment, Jack rushes in, pulls her out, and helps her away from the area. As they leave, something eerie happens. blood starts seeping from the bullet holes in the walls. Slowly, the pool fills with crimson water, and dozens of lifeless bodies begin to rise to the surface. Meanwhile, Captain Murphy enters the ship's captain's room. On a table, he finds a half-filled glass of wine. Curious, he picks it up, and in the mirror across from him, he sees the reflection of the ship's old captain sipping from the very same glass. Murphy freezes, stunned. At the same time, Greer wanders into the main lounge, the same place where the elegant party took place 40 years earlier. He hears faint music echoing through the hall, Francesca's song. Her voice is soft but haunting. He looks around but no one is there. Yet we see Francesca, sitting gracefully in the same spot she performed decades ago. Elsewhere, Jack and Murin make their way to the cargo hold, where they find rows of classic luxury cars from the 1960s. While inspecting the area, Murin opens a crate, and her eyes widen. Inside are stacks of gold bars. Shocked, she calls the others. The crew gathers, and everyone stares in disbelief. They can hardly contain their excitement. They quickly agree to take the gold, leave the ship, and return to port. They begin transferring the gold onto the Arctic Warrior, while Santos checks the engines. But as he works, an unseen force quietly twists open a propane tank valve. At that same moment, the ghostly little girl appears again, warning Murin in a trembling voice. "Don't start the boat." Before Murin can react, something grabs the girl and drags her away into the shadows. Unaware of what's happening, Greer starts the engine, and in an instant, a massive explosion tears through the ship. The Arctic Warrior is destroyed, and Santos is killed instantly. Shocked and grieving, the survivors realize their only option now is to repair the Antonia Graza and use it to escape. As the others mourn Santos's death, Murin becomes more determined to learn the truth about the mysterious girl. She searches through the passenger records and finally tracks down the girl's cabin. When she opens the door, she gasps, a small skeleton hangs from the ceiling. Horrified, Murin steps back in shock. Meanwhile, Greer re-enters the lounge, where suddenly everything transforms. The room is now alive again, just as it was in 1962, filled with lights, laughter, and dancing guests. The crowd cheers for him as though he's one of them. Then Francesca approaches seductively, smiling. She flirts with him, drawing him closer, and leads him to the upper deck. Just as Greer leans in, Francesca's expression turns cold, and she pushes him off the ledge, sending him plummeting to his death. Elsewhere, Captain Murphy sits in the captain's quarters, lost in thought. Suddenly, the ghost of the old captain appears before him, offering him wine and handing him an old diary. Murphy opens it and learns the chilling truth. Decades ago, the Antonia Graza had rescued survivors from a sinking ship called the Lorelei. Along with those survivors, crates of gold were also transferred aboard. Only one survivor had been found from the Lorelei. 2 days after bringing that survivor and the gold aboard, the Antonia Graza vanished. The ghostly captain then shows Murphy a photograph of that lone survivor, and when Murphy sees it, he's left completely stunned. At the same time, Murin is in the girl's room, staring at the skeleton. She notices a locket hanging around its neck. As she examines it, the ghost girl appears again. That's when Murin realizes the truth. The skeleton is the girl's own body. The child died long ago, and what Murin has been seeing all along is her restless spirit. The girl says softly, "My soul and the souls of my friends are trapped here. The one who cursed us will never let us go, not until his collection is complete." Before she can reveal more, a dark supernatural force fills the room. Terrified, the girl warns Murin, "Leave this ship while you still can." Then, in an instant, she vanishes. Meanwhile, Murphy, now knowing the full truth, rushes to warn the others. But as he moves through the corridors, hallucinations take over. He sees Murin as the ghost of Santos, mocking and taunting him. In a panic, Murphy attacks her. Murin fights back, and just in time, Jack arrives and pulls her to safety. Believing Murphy has gone insane, the crew locks him inside a giant empty fish tank to restrain him. Desperate to escape, the group decides to finish the repairs as fast as possible. But Murin, still searching for answers, goes off alone to find Greer. While wandering through the ship, the ghost girl appears again, this time showing Murin Greer's dead body, brutally mangled. Then, the girl touches Murin's hand, and suddenly, Murin is pulled into a vision of the past, back to 1962. Here, the horrifying truth is revealed. The sole survivor from the Lorelei, the man they thought was a victim, was actually the mastermind behind everything. He had convinced the Antonia Graza's crew to poison the passengers and massacre everyone on board. Some guests were shot near the pool. Others were sliced in half by the metallic cables. Even the little girl was hanged in her cabin, all for the gold. When the surviving crew members gathered the treasure, Francesca appeared, manipulated an officer, and ordered him to kill the remaining workers. Once he did, Francesca turned on him and shot him dead. And then, the true villain revealed himself. The man from the Lorelei stepped forward, released a hook, and strangled Francesca to death. When Murin sees his face, she's horrified. It's Jack. The same Jack who brought them all here. Panicked, Murin rushes to free Murphy from the tank, but it's too late. Jack has filled it with water, drowning him. The photo the ghost captain gave Murphy lies floating beside him. Heartbroken, Murin takes it and escapes toward the dock. But Jack soon appears, pretending nothing's wrong. Murin acts calm, pretending to know nothing. She tells Jack and Dodge to stay put, handing Dodge a shotgun, and walks away. Moments later, a supernatural force grabs Dodge, crushing him inside a heavy machine. Blood sprays through the pipes as Murin realizes Dodge is dead. Knowing there's no other choice, Murin decides to blow up the Antonia Graza, the only way to destroy Jack once and for all. Jack races to stop her, but suddenly Dodge appears, claiming Murin told him to stay behind. Jack mocks him, calling him a coward, provoking Dodge to shoot him. Believing Jack is dead, Murin starts the countdown for the explosion. But then Dodge steps out of the shadows again. His form flickers, and he transforms into Jack. He smiles wickedly and says, "I'm just like you, Murin. I'm a salvager too, but instead of collecting ships, I collect souls." And in that moment, we finally understand, Jack isn't human at all. He's a demonic spirit, cursed to roam the seas, luring people to sin, then claiming their souls for hell. Jack's true plan was finally revealed. He intended to use the Antonia Graza to trap even more souls, continuing his endless cycle of death. He lunges at Murin, but she fights back fiercely. In the struggle, she grabs a crossbow and fires, striking Jack in the leg. He howls in pain and stumbles, giving her a brief moment to act. Seizing the opportunity, Murin takes aim once more, this time at the detonator. The arrow hits its mark. A massive explosion rips through the ship, tearing it apart and blasting Jack into pieces. The shockwave throws Murin into the ocean, and she sinks deep into the dark water. As she drifts, the spirit of the little girl appears before her one last time. The girl gently points toward the surface, showing Murin a way out. The ship groans and splits apart, slowly descending into the depths. From within the wreck, we see countless trapped souls, including the little girl, finally freed from their torment and ascending toward the light. Murin floats alone in the vast ocean, clinging to a floating box for support. Exhausted but alive, she watches the Antonia Graza sink beneath the waves. By dawn, a passing cruise ship spots her and rescues her from the water. Later, we see Murin lying on a stretcher, being lifted into an ambulance. Still dazed, she glances toward the dock, and freezes. Workers are loading the same gold crates she had seen aboard the Antonia Graza onto the new ship. Then, as the last crate is moved, Jack appears, fully alive, standing among the crew, watching her silently. Their eyes meet. Murin's face twists in horror. As Jack turns and boards the ship, Murin lets out a scream of terror, realizing the nightmare isn't over. And with that chilling moment, the film ends.